The United States and 9 other countries are involved in the search for Flight 370. Dozens of ships and aircraft are crisscrossing more than 10,000 square miles. Chip Reid is in Washington with a look at how they're trying to find the 777 jetliner. Chip, good morning.
Well, good morning, Charlie and Nora. As you just noted, the area being searched is huge and it is constantly expanding. As one American commander said, time is against us. Planes and helicopters are using sophisticated surface radar to scan the ocean for debris. But given the lack of information about the plane's final location, the teams are only making an educated guess. Commander William Marks is with the U.S. 7th Fleet in the South China Sea.
Time is not on our side, so anything we can do to expand this search.
The waters between Malaysia and Vietnam are relatively shallow. In many places, if you stood the missing Boeing 777 on its nose, part of the tail would stick out of the water. But shallow water presents its own problems. Tides and currents are stronger, scattering debris more quickly. Shallow water can also confuse sonar, sound waves used to locate objects on the ocean floor.
I always like to think that we need to start by finding the haystack, and then we can look for the bits of the needle in that haystack. And in this case, the haystack is huge because we just don't have the clues.
Oceanographer David Gallo led the 2009 search for Air France Flight 447. That plane went down in deep water in a remote section of the Atlantic Ocean. Search teams located the wreck. It took another 2 years to find the flight data recorders in an underwater mountain range. Gallo says even if the black boxes are recovered for the Malaysia Air flight, it could be years before investigators and the families of the passengers know exactly what happened.
We assume the plane has crashed, but, not a bit of evidence, not a mayday, nothing. It's almost like a murder mystery with no body.
If the plane cannot be found by searching the surface, crews will start using sonar to search under the water, and we are fast approaching the point where this search will change from rescue to recovery. Charlie and Nora?
All right, Chip Reid, fascinating. Thank you.
I don't want money, and I don't want notoriety. I just want clean water and clean air. And I want seafood to be safe to eat and not safe because somebody says it's safe to eat. Well, oil has been leaking into the Gulf for eons. That's natural. Corexit and dispersants, that's not nature. That's man, and that's the problem. And I have analyzed Corexit before in the past for ExxonMobil some years ago. And I have experience with it, and I knew that they only applied it on the top of the water, and they only sprayed equipment with it as a degreaser. The fact that they took it and injected it subsurface to allow it to mix with the oil underwater is something that's never been done before. Minute particles of dispersant are mixing with oil and producing a distribution of materials that are not common to water. I got contacted, Jessica Taloni with WKRG Mobile, TV Beach and Gulf Shores, and took samples right near where some kids were playing, and I analyzed them. The water showed concentrations that were detectable. There were many that were substantial. At that particular time, I would not declare the sand that the kids were playing in as a safe environment. Well, I think initially Channel 5 did what they could do to produce results and information, and at some point in time, they either decided that the information wasn't something they wanted or they got some pressure from someone. You never heard another thing from them specific on testing and reporting results like they did back in May. From the get-go, BP hired dozens of scientists at most of the universities, and they're paying them not to say anything, not to generate any information, not to formulate an opinion, and not to give interviews. And that saddens me. I don't think enough information has been presented that the general public has full knowledge. I do know that the Dauphin Island Sea Lab has been smothered with information. I know they have received a large quantity of money, I think about $5 million in grant money from BP. I don't really see them share any specific information and test results to the general public. And if they have performed tests or had tests performed with that $5 million, I'd like to see a copy of the report. I'd like to see it posted in a 4-page special in the Mobile Press Register. And now they have to go to a website and get it, and there's a bunch of tabulated information that's very difficult to read by a layperson, and it's even difficult to read by a scientist. That's why my reports are very simple. They show a result, they show a detection limit, and a date and a time of a test. Let's make it easy to read so that people that do not have backgrounds in science and engineering can look at a report and say, okay, this is what we looked for, this is what we found. 2 weeks ago in front of the Finley's Bed and Breakfast at the Romar Beach House in Orange Beach, and it showed 5 parts per million of dissolved hydrocarbons as oil and grease in a water sample from the Gulf, from the surf. I don't know that I want to eat a crab caught out there or a shrimp caught out there. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife have set 2 criteria. The finfish at 100 ppm and crabs, oyster, and shellfish, shrimp at 500 parts per million. Those levels are absurdly high. There's a requirement by the Environmental Protection Agency that dictates to all plants that have a facility near a body of water. There's a specific limit in the amount of oil and grease that can be discharged into that body of water. That limit is 15 parts per million. And your concentration in front of the bed and breakfast was 5 parts per million. That's over 33 times higher than what a plant is allowed to discharge in their water. They're allowing you 33 times higher than that when you put a shrimp in your mouth and eat it. Yeah. Below 500 is okay. That's absurd. Right. That number should be down into the parts per billion.
Right.
Realistically, it should be 0. That level should be, down below 1. It should be a very small amount and only a trace amount. And I don't even know if it was at 0.9 parts per million, if I would consider that safe. 80% of the blue crab larvae showed positive petroleum presence. See, that's a problem, a real problem for me, because I'm a crab lover. I like crabs more than I like any other seafood, even more than shrimp and lobster. And I love shrimp and lobster. That just means that I am very fond of crabs. And to know that the larval stages of crab that are showing up with this kind of contamination, greatly, it's a problem. In Bayou La Batre, I spent the day yesterday talking with people that have been greatly affected by the spills, and they're about out of business. The companies are now under an FDA directive to perform those tests daily. They've got to perform those tests at their expense. They've got to document it at their expense and report it on forms at their expense to the FDA. All these people now that don't have any business hardly, they're having to do all these things, and it's a requirement or they'll pull their license. Is it safe to go eat and drink and fish and walk around? No, I don't think it's safe. I think we're still in for major impacts. If you had the U.S. government with the help of the U.S. Navy, they could go out there and they could find it. But guess what? I don't think they want to find it. I don't think they care to find it. They don't care to track the largest single environmental disaster in the U.S. and really, in my experience, in the world.